I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up today on Undivided. For years, Democrats claimed Trump and SCOTUS would upend gay marriage, another lie to scare voters into obedience. Plus, Seattle's mayoral race is still undecided. And furries descend on Portland's ICE facility. That and much more coming up today on Undivided. Remember, you can support our show for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com. That's undividedpod.com. Click on the banner that says support the show. Hello, friends, and welcome to Undivided on this Monday. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. I don't usually start the show with national news, but this, of course, has local implications. And it's one of those kind of I told you so, but I think it's important to point out only because we're going to continue to see Democrats fearmonger over things that voters have a right to be scared about, right? So gay marriage for the last 4 years or so, ever since the fall of Roe, so I'd say more like 3 years. One of the key things Democrats were fear-mongering about over SCOTUS and the danger of another Trump presidency is what? That after Roe, the president would force the Supreme Court or pressure the Supreme Court to upend gay marriage. This has been all over the news for 3 years.
Since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, American women have been taking to the streets. And it's not just abortion in the crosshairs. Conservative-leaning justices have hinted a rollback of same-sex marriage could be up next.
As Donald Trump is set to return to power, some Americans worried about the impact of his policies on their lives and the lives of those they love are taking extraordinary steps. Among them, my next guests who have been happily planning a wedding for next year, but in the November issue of Vogue, Shelby Wax writes about waking up on the Wednesday after Election Day and wondering if that wedding will still be possible.
Oh my gosh, it was like you cannot reelect Trump. This was the theme in the 2022 midterms as well. That was what Democrats pushed and pushed and pushed. And it wasn't just gay marriage. It was gay marriage and interracial marriage. The headlines were nonstop. Democratic politicians saying, oh my gosh, if we, if the midterms don't go our way, you're not going to be able to marry. Or if you are already married and you're gay, you're not going to be married anymore. Or this was from Rep. Eric Swalwell. I remember him pushing this at the time. They're going to ban interracial marriage. All this nonsense fear mongering that carried through to the 2024 election. It was a common attack from Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. And they do this because that's a very scary thing, right? If you're gay, and in our state, there's a lot of people who are gay, and I've always supported gay marriage. I always find it interesting that these Democrats are so high on their high horse. They're like, Republicans, conservatives, evil. It's like most of us have supported, of my generation, gay marriage long before you even did. I mean, didn't Barack Obama only change in 2008 or Hillary Clinton? I mean, they haven't even supported gay marriage for very long. But they saw this as a very valuable fear-mongering tool. And SCOTUS was never going to upend the 2015 Supreme Court ruling that granted gay marriage across the country. And now they've came out and said, no, we're not going to rehear this. And this was always going to be the conclusion. This all over the news today. Supreme Court denies request to revisit same-sex marriage decision. Kim Davis, this goes back to her case, a Kentucky county clerk who refused to issue same-sex marriage licenses. She'd asked the court to reconsider its landmark 2015 opinion. And the court, which is solidly conservative, said, we're not going to do that. They never were, you guys. They never were. And this personally for me was something I heard often from my Democratic friends about why they are and have been so opposed to Donald Trump. Is they saw stories like this, they saw fear-mongering like this nonstop from 2022. Many of my friends who are gay are like, I'm not going to vote for someone who, has appointed Supreme Court justices, who are conservative, will continue to do that. It might take away my right to be married. But this is such a common tactic from the left, is they want voters to be obedient to them because of fear. No other reason, not because of their great ideas or what they're doing for the country, because of fear. And that's been about what they've been doing with Donald Trump for like more than 10 years. And so what are they doing now, right? Because this is off the table. Oh, Trump's not going to leave office. Trump's going to run for a third term. Trump's going to become a dictator and he's going to seize power and it's going to be a takeover of the U.S. government. And we're going to lose our right to vote, which is, of course, never going to happen. But they'll keep saying that it's going to happen right up to the day that it doesn't. And then they'll just pretend they didn't spend 10 years saying that. By then, 15 years almost saying that. And the media will just forget, and the media won't call Democrats out for their constant lies and fear mongering. Like, hey, you said Donald Trump was going to seize power and he was never going to leave office and he just left office. So were you wrong? No, they're not going to ask. They're going to allow the Democrats to do the fear mongering on and on and on and on and on. And then they'll just let everyone move on. No, we're not going to let them move on. Republicans and the Supreme Court were never going to upend gay marriage. And if you fell for that in the last 3 years, that is entirely your fault and the media's fault. And it's kind of sad when you go back to, Nicole, can you play again that the MSNBC, CNN cuts about, when you really think about this, like they're telling people and getting people all spun up over something that's like critical and important in their lives, whether they can marry the person they love.
Since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, American women have been taking to the streets. And it's not just abortion in the crosshairs. Conservative-leaning justices have hinted a rollback of same-sex marriage could be up next.
As Donald Trump is set to return to power, some Americans worried about the impact of his policies on their lives and the lives of those they love are taking extraordinary steps. Among them, my next guests who have been happily planning a wedding for next year, but in the November issue of Vogue, Shelby Wax writes about waking up on the Wednesday after Election Day and wondering if that wedding will still be possible.
Oh, it's really exhausting. And that was right after the November election last year when Trump was reelected. And so what does CNN do? It rushes to platform a gay couple that wrote an article in Vogue saying, I'm worried my wedding won't happen, when there's literally no indication that the Supreme Court ruling from 2015 is going to be overturned, that we're racing toward that reality. It's just really disgusting what the media has done. And then lets these people live in fear, forces these people to live in fear for years and years and years. It doesn't happen now. We're all just going to move on. Nobody's going to hold the Democrats and the media accountable for fear mongering over this. And not only that, again, the interracial. They literally were saying around the time that Donald Trump, it became clear he was going to be reelected, he's going to stop interracial marriage. I mean, how insane does that sound? So, and then they get away with it. And then they just fearmonger over Trump and all their failures. People just ignore their failures. So I just had to rant about that today because I remember saying at the time, they're not going to do that. That would be stupid. And again, let's not act like Democrats have always been for gay marriage. No, they all just came around to that issue in 2008, 2010, some even later than that. And now they want to be all sanctimonious about it. Give me a break. All right, I want to check in really quickly on the Seattle mayoral race. Maybe you're starting to win me over on the mail-in ballot issue. I know, maybe not fully, but is it not crazy that we are a week out from an election and we don't know who the mayor is going to be yet? That is nuts. Okay, Nicole's rolling her eyes at me. Maybe that's a little nuts. I mean, New York City has, 5-6 times the number of voters who voted in their election last Tuesday than their mayoral election, than our mayoral election. And they knew the night of who was going to be the next mayor of New York City. Why can't we do that? And there are states that do mail-in voting that do it better than us in the sense that we don't wait this long for the results. The race is still too close, and it's a holiday today, right? It's Veterans Day. Is that today? Yeah. So we're not going to get any results today. So that'll push it to tomorrow. Right now, Bruce Harrell is still ahead. He's got 50.7%. Katie Wilson has been closing the gap ever since the first drop of ballots. She's now within 2 percentage points. She's got 48.9%. And I went and looked at what that comes down to with votes. It's about a 4,000 vote difference. And I think she very much could pull it off. But it is crazy. Guys, maybe I'm giving in a little bit. How can you tell me that we don't have a week later election results? And I'm not saying that means that there's something untoward happening, but we've been doing mail-in voting for 20 years. And I know it's changed and improved a little bit over time. Has it improved if we still have races? Now, this isn't a situation where, let's say we're in recount territory, where the race was really close on election night. You got people out and curing ballots, and this might have to go to an official recount. No. This is a situation where we still have a large enough percentage of outstanding ballots that haven't been counted yet that we still genuinely don't know who won. And it could come within 100 votes or so. And I will say that people keep asking me, I got just so many texts over the weekend, Brandi, what's going to happen? Brandi, what's going to happen? And I don't know what's going to happen. Historically, Katie Wilson's in a very good place. Historically, her numbers in the counts day after day are very similar to what happened with Shama Sawant, the socialist, where she was down by double digits and all of a sudden she pulls out this miracle and she's ahead. And I will also say, to Katie Wilson's credit, her and her team have a way better ground game. They've been all over social media. She's posting nonstop this information for voters on how they can cure their ballots. So curing ballots basically means there was some sort of issue with your ballot. You turned it in on time, but maybe there's a signature match issue, for example, and it's your responsibility to cure that ballot to make sure that it counts. And you have a short window of time where you're able to do that. So they had volunteers flooding the city, trying to make sure that ballots that were not going to be counted were counted. I was checking, not that Bruce Harrell probably is doing some of that, but if he is, he hasn't said anything about it. I was checking his campaign social media, not a post since election night. Katie Wilson's been all out there in the community, so maybe she deserves to win. It's like she actually cares, and Bruce Harrell's just, hiding in his basement? I have no idea. But history shows us Katie Wilson is in a pretty good position whenever the enough ballots are counted, maybe by tomorrow, that she's poised to win. And then her team is out there doing what anybody should be doing in a race that's probably going to come down to a couple hundred votes. Curing individual ballots, making sure that every single ballot that can count does count. But this is crazy, I gotta say. Maybe I'm softening a little bit, because if we can't, after 20 years, have a mail-in voting system that's more quick than this, where we don't know a week later who won one of the most important races that was on the ballot statewide, I don't know. I might be softening a little bit.
Where were Gregor's ballots found? The ones that put her ahead of Dino?
2004.
Yeah, so they're looking behind every
checking under rocks.
Yeah,
checking in homeless encampments, tracking down people.
Bench somewhere.
Yeah, it's insane. All right, I still like mail-in voting, but maybe I'm softening a little bit. It's really wild stuff. And then, when we know the results, we'll panic over what it means to have a socialist as the mayor of Seattle. But maybe I won't full-fledged panic just yet. Well, the other alternative is to continue to have someone who shows up to do the job but isn't actually doing the job. All right, I hate to say I told you so again 2 times in a single episode, but I told you so. So we were talking last week, we led the show on Thursday with this nonsense that's happening over the flock camera system, which many police departments across the country have implemented at a time of low police staffing to be able to help them fight crime. And all sorts of crime, not just traffic violations, but flock cameras are able to help them track down and track from the scene of a crime robbery suspects, rape suspects, murder suspects, drive-by shootings, stolen vehicles, all number of things. But of course, one city had this fear that the data in the cameras would be able to be accessed by ICE. And this started in, Auburn? And then last week, we heard from the Redmond police chief who was under questioning there from the city council.
Was any of the data from our systems used in these contacts?
Absolutely not. None of our data has been received by any outside entity.
Didn't matter. They stopped the camera use anyway, even though the chief of police told them ICE hasn't used our cameras. We're using those cameras to fight crime in a city that's seen a pretty startling uptick in crime. No, ICE hasn't used it. Well, let's, out of an abundance of caution, strip our police department of this very valuable crime-fighting tool. And I said, what did I say on Thursday? You're going to see a domino effect. This is exactly what happened with police defunding. One city has a stupid idea, and then it starts to spiral, and all the other cities do it too. Now the city of Linwood, reevaluating its flock camera system. This from the Linwood Times. The Linwood Police Department has temporarily paused use of its automated license plate reader, known as the flock cameras, to address community concerns about data privacy and system access. And this is my favorite part, is they're trying to spin it as this. Oh, no, it's about data privacy. Since when the hell have Democrats cared one bit about data privacy? And this data privacy debate happened at the time when police departments started introducing the flock system. That's a debate that's already been had, and I'm not saying there's not validity in there, but this is strictly about your unhinged belief that ICE will use these cameras. So don't pretend like it's about something else. They go on to say, flock cameras have already proven to be an invaluable investigative tool in solving crimes and keeping our community safe, said Police Chief Cole Langdon. However, it's equally important that we maintain the public trust. Out of respect for the concerns raised in our commitment to transparency, we have chosen to pause the system while we strengthen safeguards to ensure the technology is used responsibly and lawfully. The Linwood Times reports during this pause, all system access has been disabled and cameras have been turned off. This decision reflects an abundance of caution and a proactive effort to ensure that the system's operation fully aligns, blah, 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 blah. First of all, let me say, they don't have to turn it off. All you do, if this is what you're really concerned about, is turn off the feature that allows for other agencies to access your camera system. And you can do that. Flock allows you to do that. But no, this is about virtue signaling. And these police departments, just all of them, over the last year, they've been celebrating this system as exactly what Democrats have asked them to do. Take a more mainstream, 21st century, technology-driven approach to policing. So you can do away with more of the scary aspects of policing and have police be more hands-off and use technology to be able to solve crimes. But now this is how police defunding happened. Let's see, Linwood Times says at its January business meeting, so talking about the history of this program in the city council approved the Linwood Police Department in a unanimous vote to enter into a 2-year agreement with Flock Safety to lease 25 of its Falcon cameras to be placed at strategic high traffic and or high crime locations around the city. The first system came online back in June. So this is like they just unanimously said, yes, let's do this. It's been a couple months. Everyone knew that part of the system was that it could be shared with other agencies. Linwood Times goes on to say, by July of 2025, the Flock cameras have detected 23 stolen vehicles every month, as well as 43 stolen plates, presumably from stolen or wanted vehicles, which is 3 times the amount of recovered stolen vehicles the city of Linwood had recovered over the last 3 years. You guys, 3 years in time, in just 1 month. Most of them went online in June. By July, they were detecting 23 stolen vehicles every month and 43 stolen plates. That's more than the amount of recovered stolen vehicles over the past 3 years. And you're willing to push all of that to the side because, oh, ICE scary, even though ICE hasn't accessed their cameras. The same as what happened in the city of Redmond. And again, fine. I think it's stupid, but if you want to turn off the information sharing feature, turn it off. Fine. If you're really concerned ICE is going to use this to, I don't know, enforce the law, then turn that feature off. Continue to use the cameras. And I saw people, now, again, Democrats are coming out of the woodwork saying, well, Brandi, it's not just about ICE. It's about, privacy and government overreach. It's like, whoa, you guys care about government overreach now? You care about the government having cameras out there and government surveillance? Like, wow, news to me. And these conversations were had last year. Where were you when these conversations were being had around the Flock camera system? No, it's virtue signaling over Donald Trump. So now we've got Auburn, Redmond, Linwood. It's going to be city after city after city. And most of these cities engaged in a 2-year trial run. And that's not very long. So if they started in January, 2 years are up, and then they're going to do away with them because of ICE. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. But this is just what happens when TDS takes over everything. And what's going to happen after Trump is gone? You want the cameras back? I don't know. Good Lord. All right, coming up next, this is a sad story, but this is the trajectory we've been on. We're shaping up for a horrible year when it comes to child deaths in the custody of the state of Washington all around. Yes, virtue signaling. Again, we could make the show called Virtue Signaling from Democrats. Democrats virtue signal over everything, even if children die. We'll have that segment coming up next. First, if you are trying to save some money this time of year, I know a lot of family budgets are stretched thin between the holidays. So if you're looking for ways to cut some spending out of your family budget, take a look at your insurance. And please don't do it on your own. There's really no reason for you to do it on your own. Reach out to our friends at Firstmark Insurance, firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com, and say, hey, Brandi Kruse told me that you might be able to save me money on my insurance. And they'll say, we'll take a look for you. And they'll go out, they'll shop the market of carriers for you. They'll come back with their recommendations. You might be paying for insurance you don't even need. And on the other side, you might be paying for insurance that isn't even going to cover you in the event that something horrible happens. So it's a balance of the things. Like, yes, you want the best price, but if you have the best price and you don't have the proper coverage, then what good does it do? Then you're paying money towards your premium for literally nothing. So Firstmark can help you with all of that. This is what they specialize in, and they do it for free. You never pay Firstmark a dime. So there really is no downside. Firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. The very best part is they work for you, not the insurance companies. So they always have your best interest in mind. All right, so we've been talking about this for a couple years now. There is a law in Washington state that was passed to be fair, on a bipartisan basis, took effect in 2023. And the idea was keeping families together. It was called the Keeping Families Together Act, House Bill 1227. And at the time, it was like, hey, we want to do what we can to keep a cohesive family unit. And I think that's what Republicans were sort of convinced of at the time. But what it did is it ended up keeping kids in really dangerous environments. It ended up keeping kids in environments where there was active drug abuse. And when fentanyl really became the predominant issue rather than heroin, we know fentanyl can kill people in the smallest of doses. And so we saw an uptick, a dramatic uptick, in the number of children who were under the care of the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So, the state had been alerted at some point that there was an issue, and then they, have a plan where they're having families check in, or they're even taking children out of the custody of a family, but they were keeping families together. So it was like the state would know, hey, somebody's using fentanyl in the home. But then they would say, well, keeping families together. And so they just keep the child in a home with active fentanyl abuse. And everyone with a brain knew what that was going to lead to, but it was all about virtue signaling. I want to replay a couple clips of Representative Roger Goodman, a Democrat chair of the House Public Safety Committee, who was talking to King 5 in February. And he was pressed about this issue, is like, hey, are we putting the wants and desires of drug abusers ahead of children?
Many grieving parents, grandparents tell me it feels like the state is protecting the adult and the child who died is not getting justice, that their life does not matter. What do you say to that?
There have been so many tragic incidences with families and children exposed to these substances. If you're committing a crime, you need to know you're committing the crime. And so many of these people who are suffering from a severe substance use disorder have no idea what's going on. And the question that many of my colleagues have is, do we want to attach criminal liability to someone who is suffering from a substance use disorder, even if someone else may be harmed?
Yes, yeah, we do. Think of how crazy that is. Do we want to attach criminal liability even if someone else might be harmed? Even if that someone else is a baby? Absolutely unhinged. Here's the second part of that clip.
In Olympia, bills to close this fentanyl gap haven't made it out of the House, specifically the Community Safety Committee.
And by criminalizing parents, we are separating parents from their children forever, and we don't want to see that.
Okay, but children will be separated from their parents forever if one of them die. So it never made sense. So we've been very closely tracking the data as a result of the Keeping Families Together Act when it comes to kids who do die or almost die. So we have an update on that. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Make sure you sign up for their newsletter to be alerted to opportunities to do just that. I think one of the really sad things about the Keeping Families Together Act and it becoming law in the first place is it was debated and passed during a period of time where the Department of Children, Youth, and Families was already seeing an uptick in the number of kids who were dying or almost dying because of drug abuse in the home. So it just seems like the most asinine time to even consider a policy that would keep kids in those environments. And so we were already, because of the scourge of the fentanyl crisis, starting to see a little bit of an uptick. But then, as you know, the numbers shot up as soon as the Keeping Families Together Act took effect. And what it did essentially is a judge could no longer consider it imminent danger for a kid to be in an environment like that. So before it was like, yeah, we're going to temporarily or maybe even permanently remove them from the home. But now it wasn't imminent danger, which is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard, frankly. How is it not imminent danger to have a little child around the deadliest drug on this planet? I don't even know how we could get to that point. So I want to look at the numbers of critical incidents right now. So the Department of Children, Youth, and Families came out with the quarter 3 data for 2025. We've followed up with you guys every time new data comes out. We did it after Q1. We did it when Q2 data came out. And we knew at those times that this was shaping up to be a very deadly year. So 2025, this is straight from the horse's mouth. The state admitting this. This is their graphic, not ours. 2025 is on pace to surpass 2024 levels before the end of the year. So we are already through Q3 have outpaced the number of near fatalities and are going to exceed the number of fatalities. So in 2024, there were 20 fatalities, 29 near fatalities. Already in 2025, there's been 15 fatalities and 30 near fatalities. And if you're watching the show today, not listening, what you're seeing here is the orange line on the screen. Those are fentanyl related. So we saw this massive spike in fentanyl related in 2023, which again is so crazy because that's at the time that they're considering this, which really makes no sense in the world. And so we're going to have this record year likely for child fatalities when it comes to kids who are already under the quote unquote watchful eye of the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So what are we going to do about it? This past legislative session, all Republicans who supported this initially in 2023 have said they felt misled by it, which I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to give them credit for that or not. And they want to come back and see it undone. And so there's been this push for the last 2 years to undo it. And there have even been some Democrats who have come back and said, we need to fix this. And there were some modest adjustments that have been made, but certainly not to the extent that it needs to be, where you go back to treating, and I just keep going back to that Roger Goodman cut, when him saying, do we really want to criminalize? Because there were other bills at the same time that were being proposed, where they were going to kind of reduce punishments for people who are caught using, there was an effort to, so right now in the state of Washington, it was really weird that if you're a parent and you're using meth in the home around kids, the punishment was greater than if you used fentanyl. And it's because the law hadn't really kept up with the kind of drugs that were out there on the market, and people were trying to add some parity there. And he's like, well, we don't want to criminalize parents. And it's just wild to me. So the numbers are there. Department of Children, Youth, and Families knows that the numbers are there when it comes to the impact this law has had on kids. The only thing that's left is for Democrats to fix it. But they have this soft spot for drug abusers. They really do. They have shown that they have, and Roger Goodman, straight from him, they have a soft spot for drug abusers. And the virtue signaling comes before anything else. It even comes before the lives of children. Because we have to virtue signal and say, oh, it's not bad if you're a drug abuser. It's fine. We don't want you to lose your kids. It's like, look, they're going to lose their kids because their kids are going to die. And then there's no keeping the family together. So let's keep everyone alive long enough to be able to have that family unit back together at some period of time after the parent has been able to recover from their drug addiction. And then, yes, you can reunite the family, but there's no reuniting a family when one of the family members is deceased. That segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Make sure you sign up for their newsletter to be alerted to opportunities to do just that. Just crazy. So we will continue to do that as soon as we have Q4 numbers. We'll let you know what those numbers are. And this is certainly going to be an issue we're going to keep a close eye on in the upcoming legislative session in January. All right, we had just a infuriating, heartbreaking interview on Sundays with subscribers this week. If you've been around in the Seattle area long enough, you probably remember back in 2020 when things were just going nuts over race and social justice. There was so much canceling. People were being canceled left and right over like microaggressions or just totally manufactured headlines. This was one of those instances. So there were a bunch of headlines, national, local headlines in 2020 about a local elementary school that put a black special needs kid in a cage. I remember these headlines very well. It was like, oh, wow, elementary school in Seattle put a second grader in a cage? He was black and disabled? Like, that doesn't look good, right? But the thing is, this principal, this guy who was the principal for that elementary school, Ed Roos, he said at the time, and he wasn't fighting this fight publicly, but, this was an approved plan with the district. A kid was never put in a cage, by the way. The entire story, because of the race and social justice narrative, because this kid was black, was totally overblown. The headlines were totally misleading. The story eventually, over the last 5 years since, has been debunked. But it didn't stop the principal at that school from losing his career over it. And he is now speaking out. He published his own article in Fair for All, the headline, "How a False Accusation Destroyed My Career and Life. After decades of dedication to education, one Seattle principal's life unraveled overnight in the grip of cancel, or as he calls it, revenge culture. He's finally ready to tell his story." So shortly after Ed Roos published that story about what he's been through over the last 5 years, he also reached out to us and he said, "Look, I'm trying to clear my name." He said, "It's been 5 years. I was never, found guilty in any sort of investigation of putting a black student in a cage." He said, "But I haven't been able to get my career back. I haven't been able to rebuild my reputation." Here's part of our conversation on Sundays with Subscribers.
Canceling wasn't enough. I lost my job. I lost my career. I lost my livelihood. I lost my passion. I lost all of that. And that was a horrible thing. That would have been cancel culture, but that wasn't enough. They need to kick me when I'm down. Then came the lawsuits, and then comes the public harassment, and then all this other stuff right in front of my children, in front of my wife. And it continues to this very day because these headlines are on the internet. I can't take them down. And so this whole thing about, oh, this will all pass, just let it go. That won't happen anymore. It won't pass. It's there forever until we do something about coming up with stricter libel and defamation laws so that we can get rid of these headlines that are on the internet forever.
I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but to have your whole career boiled down to the reputation of putting a black kid in a cage like an animal.
It's horrible. I think Dave Chappelle said it best. In one of his stand-up, he says that taking one's livelihood is akin to taking their life.
Yeah.
They stripped my life from me. This was my passion. I was meant to do this. And that's my selfish part of this. The other side of it, Brandi, is that I was good at it. I was making a difference for people. I wasn't the type of teacher who just went and taught. I mean, I started organizations to bring in mentors into Thurgood Marshall, as I mentioned before. I ran soccer clinics at Bagley Elementary and after-school programs for many, many years. I was working with Special Olympics on my own personal time. I mean, I was really making a difference. I had success in the classroom with test scores. I had success by closing the achievement gap. I write in the article how when I was at View Ridge that we were a school of recognition for reducing the opportunity gap in test scores for students. So I was making a difference. And so not only for a personal standpoint, did I lose my livelihood, but Seattle schools, the Seattle community lost, in my opinion, someone who was out there making a difference for the better.
Does that not break your heart? He's such a nice guy. We talked for about an hour, and he can't get other districts to hire him because they Google his name, and his name is still attached to these headlines about putting a second-grade black kid in a cage. And it was this really interesting conversation. I mean, here he is. He should be preparing for retirement, but he can't. He's not in a position to retire. This has devastated every aspect of his life. Took his passion away from him, took his retirement really away from him, has hurt his wife and his kids, and it still continues. He's been harassed by neighbors over this. And it just shows you, I mean, I do believe we're coming out of this cancel culture period where people have had enough and they're like, look, you're not canceling me over something dumb. And people aren't jumping at the bit to just cancel people and ruin their lives. But that doesn't undo the damage that's been done. What about all these people? I mean, there's so many stories of cancellation from 2020, 2021, during the pandemic, people who spoke out about mandates and all of these things. It's like, man, where are they now? What are their lives like now? And for Ed Roos, this has been, I don't want to say it's ruined his life, but pretty damn close. Absolutely unforgivable. So we were really grateful he's finally willing to speak out about this. You can watch our full interview with Ed by becoming a subscriber. Go to undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. Just click on the banner that says support the show. And, he doesn't want to leave the Seattle area. I get it. This has been home for him. He also did tell us, his whole life, he's been a liberal Democrat. Grew up on Capitol Hill. Started at teaching in a district that was predominantly black students, was really passionate about it, really passionate about improving their lives. And it's his side that turned on him. And I didn't get into well, what are your politics now? But this is a common theme where we see these people who they felt like they were good people. They felt like they cared about race and social justice. They felt like they were, loving, caring human beings who were doing all the right things, but it didn't matter. Cancel culture didn't care. It was like, nope, you're a white dude, and so we're going to just toss you at the altar of wokeness. Just awful. Ruined his life. Ridiculous. I hope he can find some other career in education because he's really passionate about it. And I think that's what he wants more than anything else. All right, coming up next, the Furries descend on the ICE facility in Portland. If we had to see it, you have to see it too. First, reach out to our newest sponsor to Undivided, Valentine Roofing, for a variety of reasons. If you need a new roof, obviously, that's top of the list. But they also do custom holiday lights, which I think is pretty cool this time of year. How many years in a row have you been like, we should really put up holiday lights? It never happens. Well, allow Valentine Roofing to do it for you. It's a great time of year to do that. They also do, they're in fact coming over to Mike and I's house to clean our roof and clean out our gutters. We're like waiting till all the leaves fall and then having them come and clean out our gutters for us so we don't have to do it ourselves. So from everything, they also do exterior cleaning, gutter cleaning and installation, attic insulation, custom holiday lighting, as we said. So reach out to our friends at Valentine Roofing. Support the businesses that support us. 206 Roofing, 206 Roofing to schedule your free consultation and estimate. Again, 206 Roofing. Please tell them you heard about them on Undivided. Holiday lighting, I'll tell you what, you get it spaced perfectly, just like that. I love that. I love that. I'm not OCD, but whenever I see a house that's got that perfectly spaced lighting, in fact, our neighbors just put up some holiday lights. They did a whole remodel or whatever, and they have the kind of lights where you can change it for any season. So it's not just white, right?
So
and Valentine can do this as well.
Down.
So they had them orange and purple for Halloween.
Love it.
Yeah, and then you change it. You got the different themes. Man, I would even change it to pink for Valentine's Day. I'd be all over it. I'd be the most festive house in the neighborhood. All right, well, so far, the protests outside the ICE facility in Portland have not derailed President Donald Trump's immigration enforcement efforts. So, leftists decided to bring in the big guns. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. Boop. All right, so this flyer had been out for a few days, so we knew that this rally and march were planned. The flyer, Degenerates Against Fascism. Well, at least they're calling themselves degenerates. Pets, furries, and kinksters. All degenerates and our supporters are welcome. March and protest to the ICE building November 9th, 2 p.m. And it has a picture of like people in kinky sex costumes and furry fetish costumes. Cool. Okay, so it did happen. Let's watch a little video from the event. Yes, the furry in the wheelchair there. Oh, getting bubbled. A little bubble play. Is this a sexual thing? A little bubble play, fetish? I guess,
know.
You're kind of pretending. There's like a fetish around reverting to childhood, right?
Well, I think it's, cats like bubbles, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going to test it tonight. Maybe I'll blow bubbles for my cats and see if they go after them.
So maybe that's kind of a thing, really trying to get in character.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was some speeches to the crowd before they started marching. Let's hear one.
As a little girl, growing up, I always rubbed against the grain.
Look at
At
this
3,
person.
I fought people who wanted me to be ladylike.
Look at this person.
And then I turned 12 and I said, absolutely not. This is not a phase. And when I turned 27, I said, F you. I am a man. And I never looked back.
No Trump, no ICE, no fascist USA. No Trump, no ICE, no fascist USA.
What does that have to do with ICE? What does that have to do with immigration enforcement? What did any of that have to do with anything?
It's all about attention anyway. That's all it is.
It's all, well, their whole lives, their whole existence, they've turned into a desperate plea for attention. And there's always been outside the ICE facility, I've been down there a couple times, there's always at least been one furry. One person's always dressed up as a furry down there. And it's really, I think it shows that you have this segment of people, and it's some of them are Antifa types, but these far left activist class, they don't really ever care about what the issue is. It's all about attention and then finding something like of meaning in their lives that they think is meaningful. And so it's the same people, they don't actually care about ICE and immigration. They're not really, it would be anything. The same people, they just hop around, issue, some of them literally hop, pounce, whatever it is, issue to issue to issue so they can feel like they're doing something important with their lives. Yet those are the people that Democrats take the side of. It's like, oh, these are our champions down there on the front lines. Like, you can have them. You can have them. It's just the most bizarre thing. And it's so funny because it's funny to watch journalists try to cover this in a way that, like,
serious.
That is, like, somewhat serious. Because how do you do that? I don't know. The furry thing that's a sexual fetish. This is what I'm talking about with the LGBTQ plus. I'm surprised they haven't put an F for furries on it yet. And that's why so many in LGB, they're trying to
Don't
just
give them any ideas.
I know. They're trying to just do a solid line because they're over it. We talked about that story last week in the Washington Post, or maybe it was the Wall Street Journal, where they're finally starting to talk about the lesbian, gay, bisexual community absolutely revolting against the rest of the alphabet mob. It's because of stuff like that. If there were ever a threat to gay marriage, it wasn't coming from the right. It was coming from this. And so many people saying, look, if you're all in the same bucket, we don't want any part of it. And so I'm glad that there's this concerted effort to just break away from the insanity and the nonsense and say, no, we're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna take our flag back. We don't stand with the furries. We don't stand with the people who want to trans children. And I think we're gonna continue to see more and more of that. But makes for good content on the show, after all. Furries.
But look out, because I have a friend whose daughter, they're infiltrating the schools. And so these kids.
Of course they are.
I mean, I know a 5th grader that wants to go to a furry convention. No, that is a sexual fetish.
And they're making it, and with the bubbles, it is literally designed to try to attract children.
Yes.
That's what it's about. They're trying to attract children into their lifestyle. And they're like, oh, what's the harm? We're dressed up as cats and dogs and we're blowing bubbles. And it's like, no, it's a sexual fetish for them. There's literally furry pornography where they're doing each other dressed as animals. Bestiality level stuff. It's absolutely disgusting.
Beware.
Anyway, I'm going to take a hard pivot. Let's talk about the shutdown really quick. So it looks like the shutdown is coming to an end. The House needs to come in and vote on the deal. So this from The Hill. Senate votes to advance proposal to end 40-day government shutdown. Senate Democrats blocked that same House-passed bill to fund the government on 14 previous occasions. So Democrats just gave in. And I am of two minds about this. There are 8 Democrats who voted to take up the House bill that had been sent over. That 14 times Democrats have said, no on this clean continuing resolution. As a group of centrist and retiring Democrats felt intense pressure to reopen the government after supplemental nutritional assistance program funding expired November 1st, and staff shortages among air traffic controllers resulted in major delays at airports. I don't know if that's it or if it's the election passed. I mean, part of me really thinks that there were Democrats who believed in some of these important races that being in the midst of a government shutdown would be helpful to them, especially in Virginia. Virginia has a huge segment of federal workers who, were like, oh, we're in the midst of a government shutdown. So I really think, Democrats didn't get anything out of this. Democrats got like maybe kind of a promise from Republicans that they'd look into the ACA issue in December. But this plan is essentially what they voted down 14 times. I really think a large part of it had to do with leverage for the election. But some of these Democratic senators have been out now making the rounds because the progressives are livid. There's like a call for Chuck Schumer's head over this. Because they really feel like, oh, Democrats just totally gave in and got nothing out of it. And that's kind of true. But these 8 Democrats basically said, look, we couldn't continue to justify the pain that this was causing our constituents.
There were 2 goals, both of which I support. One was standing up to Donald Trump. The other was getting some resolution on the ACA premium tax credit issue. The problem was the shutdown wasn't accomplishing either goals, and there was there was zero likelihood that it was going to.
Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration. I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children.
What's important is that this gives us an opportunity to vote on the floor of the Senate by mid-December on a bill that we will write that will address the cost of health insurance for Americans and extend those premium tax credits. And hopefully our Republican colleagues will work with us on that.
I was so focused on the Virginia elections, I wasn't in this discussion on the health care to see how dug in they were.
Excuse me? The Tim Kaine one is the craziest. Why would you say that out loud? I mean, I believe you that that's where your focus was. Oh, I was so focused on the Virginia election. I wasn't paying attention to know that Republicans were serious and they weren't going to give in. That is an astonishing thing to come out and admit. Now, I think there's a mixed bag here among these 8 Democrats. You know, some of them, I think, ended the shutdown for the right reasons. I mean, one of them, you know, John Fetterman, he's always been voting to end the shutdown. So I think within the Democrats who voted with Republicans, I think some of them were doing it for the right reasons and have been consistent on it. Other ones, I really think that the leverage that they felt like they needed for the elections had passed. And so now they're like, oh, no big deal. We'll just go with the clean continuing resolution and deal with the healthcare issue later on. But the base, the Democratic base, losing it at these 8. And that's fine with me. A little bit of infighting never hurt anyone because they acted like they were standing up against Trump and for principle and all of this. Then they're like, nah, never mind. And one of those, I can't remember which senator it was saying, you know, I supported the goal. Can you play? Because actually it's the first cut. We can just cut it short, but.
There were 2 goals, both of which I support. One was standing up to Donald Trump. The other was getting some resolution on the ACA premium tax credit issue.
Yeah, so he admits one of the goals was standing up to Donald Trump. So you're willing, you're saying, you painted this as people were literally starving. Oh my gosh, people are literally starving. And it was like standing up to Donald Trump. And now they admitted that that didn't seem to be working. And President Trump and Republicans had no intention of backing down. So looks like the government shutdown is going to be ending. And I think that this is going to not be pleasant for the Democratic Party because there's going to be a lot of infighting over this. All right. This story I have not been able to stop reading about and thinking about all weekend. I was in tears. I literally despise the Canadian government. We're going to get to this mass murder of ostriches, which we haven't talked about on the show before, but got to talk about it today. First, if you are a small to mid-sized landlord in the state of Washington, consider becoming a member of the Rental Housing Association of Washington. They're doing a couple things. They're advocating on your behalf in Olympia. You need someone down there fighting against the asinine policies that are making it more difficult by the day to be a housing provider. And then number 2, they can help you navigate the existing climate around rules and regulations, new laws like rent control, to make sure that you're up to date on where things are and that you're doing everything that you need to be doing to not run afoul of Bob Ferguson and his minion Nick Brown. So rhawa.org, rhawa.org to become a member today. It's about $260 a year, which I think is a pretty good deal to have their advocacy and have them in your corner, rhawa.org. I am so sad about this. And before I even play it, it is a sad video because it shows the 300 ostriches that were murdered in cold blood by the government of Canada. So this has been going on, this fight, for a long time. And I'll get to the details of why the Canadian government murdered these perfectly healthy ostriches. But this happened, this was a scene over the weekend in Edgewood, British Columbia. In Canada, we have what the ostriches looked like when they were alive and healthy and beautiful and amazing. And then the government went in under the dark of night and slaughtered every single one of them. Shot them all dead. They corralled them in a little area, and then as soon as the sun went down, witnesses say you just heard the shots, hundreds of shots ringing out. And then there was another round of shots in the morning where apparently some of them had been, I'm going to say it because it's so horrible. Some of them had been injured and it wasn't apparent until daylight that they weren't dead. And I mean, those ostriches, which have literally grown up together. I mean, I saw images of the family that raised these ostriches, of their son who's now late teens, with these ostriches when he was a kid. So these ostriches, sentient beings, put into a pen, and then they watch their ostrich friends murdered one by one. I can't even. I never want to go to Canada again. I never want to go to Canada again. So this is the story from the AP. Canadian federal agency says cull is over. All ostriches shot dead at British Columbia farm. So here's the background. A Canadian federal agency said Friday it has shot dead all ostriches at a British Columbia farm, fulfilling a 10-month-old cull order over a bird flu outbreak. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency said in a news release on Friday a professional marksman was used, and it was done in a humane way. Yeah, my ass. Owners of the farm in the southern interior community of Edgewood, British Columbia, had been fighting the order in the courts, arguing the surviving ostriches show no signs of illness and should be spared. The farm's owners have said the cull was unnecessary because the flock was healthy and had herd immunity, making them valuable for scientific research, while requesting that the birds be tested for infection. But the CFIA refused, saying ostriches that appear healthy can still be a potential source of the virus, and allowing the flock to live increased the risk the virus would dangerously mutate, particularly if the birds were exposed to wildlife. So there had been an outbreak of the bird flu, but all of these ostriches, none of them died from bird flu. They all appeared perfectly fine and healthy. The government basically said, we've got to kill them anyway. The family said, well, test them. Test them to see if they have bird flu. Test them to see if they have it and can transmit it and can infect. And the government refused to do it. The United States offered to take these ostriches. The United States, no. Canadian government's like, no, they got to die. Insane. It was heartbreaking. Katie Pastany, who's a daughter of the owners of this farm, posted this video about the ordeal.
That's what pain looks like when the government fails you. And you remember that. Shame on you, Canada. Shame on you, government. Shame on you, Heath MacDonald and everybody who had the chance to do the right thing. Shame on you. She's gonna lose everything that she loves. Her family will never get these animals back, and Canada will never get these animals back. Shame on you.
I'm so mad about it. Oh my God. The images are horrifying. Can you play that video again? It just, people have to know how disgusting this is. Like, why would you not test them? And apparently it was going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the test, but Canada just said there's no need to. We're not going to. There was already an outbreak. We're not going to risk it. We're just going to shoot them all dead.
Yeah, it's unreal.
I'm surprised. I'm going to say it. I'm surprised Donald Trump let it happen. Donald Trump should have said, I'm sending the U.S. military into Canada to seize these
RFK
ostriches.
Stepped in.
Isn't it
RFK
horrible?
did step in. So, I mean, the administration did kind of get involved.
No, they tried. And they even offered to take them. But Canada's like, no, we're not letting them leave the farm. Just horrifying. And I saw one video of the family confronting one of the... I think it's similar to Fish and Game, basically, in the United States. Yeah, the guy that was going to do it. And she's just basically like, you will live with this for the rest of your life. And I'm sure that he will. And he's carrying out this order. But I've been following it. It's just the saddest story. I cannot stop reading articles about it. I'm almost like punishing myself, but it's just
I don't know how anybody does that.
It reminds me in New York of when they killed poor Peanut. When they killed the squirrel and the raccoon that family had for literally no reason.
I forgot about Peanut.
Yes, it's like, oh my God, because you can't have a squirrel. The squirrel's doing just fine.
Yeah.
So you're worried about the health of the squirrel in a home, and so you'll just kill it? Nothing makes me madder than this. Nothing. Nothing. And I felt bad having Nicole edit the video of it because I knew she loves animals so much. I was like, we should be so sad.
Well, and I mean,
so
we put
like
dogs
shaking.
down in a very humane way. I mean, you like give them a little injection and they fall asleep.
How is this humane?
How is that considered humane?
And you don't think that first of all, most animals, when they hear a gunshot, are panicked. Terrified, panicked, trying to flee. They've got them in this area surrounded by these hay bales. They can't get out. And so all they hear is over and over and over gunshots. Their friends that they've grown up with, dead on the ground. Panicked and fleeing, and they can't get anywhere.
There's
oh my gosh, my heart
about
breaks.
It. There was
nothing humane about it. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. All right, we'll get to our daily show poll. Can you make sure that's in there by the time I get to it, Nicole? Sorry. Daily show poll and subscriber comments coming up next. First, our friend Wes Jones at sellwithwes.com is the guy you want to call when you're looking to sell your home. This is what Mark B., a recent client, had to say. All I can say is it was a very smooth experience and just what I was hoping for. We had to sell my mom's house, and it needed a little bit of prep. New carpet, paint, yard work. None of us live nearby, and Wes, Erica, and the team took care of all of it. We got asking price and it sold the first weekend. I've heard a couple stories like this about Wes and his team that, a family was trying to sell a loved one's house. Maybe they were downsizing, for instance, but they weren't nearby to help. So Wes comes in and they manage all of it. And they come in, tell you which upgrades are going to be worth it to get the most value out of your home. It's called their Listing Boost Concierge Service. So I'm really glad Mark was able and his family were able to utilize that. And Wes helped them every step of the way. So reach out to Wes Jones of sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com. It really just is a better way to sell your home. Okay, our daily subscriber show poll. I thought of this with the Katie Wilson, Bruce Harrell race, and I'm curious how many people take this extra step. So I asked subscribers on Patreon, Locals, and X, do you track your ballot to ensure that it is counted? Yes or no? And there's a simple tool to do that. You can do it either through your county elections or through the state. And you can just make sure once you turn it in that it gets to where it's going. And I started doing this because dropping it in USPS, I think there were a few stories where people realized, oh my gosh, I dropped it in a USPS box that was never picked up. And so you think your ballot's counted and it isn't. Nicole, is this a step you have started to do?
I have started to do that. I haven't done it yet this year, but
then that
I need
makes,
to get on it.
Well, it's too late now. Because even if it didn't get to where it's going, it's not going to count at this point.
Oh, yeah.
You got to track your ballot before.
Well, I
Election
didn't turn it in until Election Day, so.
Oh, okay. So it wouldn't have mattered.
In the past, I have done it.
So 57% of you say, yes, you do take this step, which I think is pretty good. 43% say no. Anne says, yes, but only rarely. I should do it every time. Let's see. Why? Not this time. I didn't find the QR code. I probably should, though. You can still go on and type in your voter information. But yeah, there's a little tab at the top of the ballots that you can rip off to be able to track it. Jen says, I don't trust the system. So yes. And that's what I would say for people who are lacking trust in our election system. This is a good way to ensure your ballot gets to where it's going. So if you don't trust our elections, you should be doing this every single time.
Yeah.
Let's see. Wildwood Homes, yes, but I don't understand why there can't be an automatic scan of ballots and a running tally. Well, I do get that because I think that can sway elections as well and can influence people's decision to vote. If, as people turn in ballots, it tells you prior to Election Day what the results are. I don't like the idea of doing that. I can see how some people would, but I think you got to keep that a secret until Election Day.
Probably.
Let me see here. And then Patty Mann was in the comments dropping the link for people. So she was giving, thank you, Patty, for giving people a quick link to be able to click on and do that. Shelley, this year I had a senior moment and I forgot to sign my ballot. Ooh. They told me I had to sign a paper 2 times to give them a new official signature and sign a statement that I told them I was a citizen of the U.S. and a resident of Washington. I was at home when I did this and alone, so how would they know I'm who I think I am, which is my daily problem anyway. I don't know. Well, hopefully you cured your ballot then, because that's the issue. You do have a period of time to cure a ballot, which means if you don't have a signature.
I also think they might compare it to your driver's license one, which is done in front of somebody.
Yeah.
So I think that might be what they compare it to, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Mike says, yes, I have the last couple elections, except this election, at least so far. Worth doing, but at this point it wouldn't matter, because if your ballot didn't get picked up and counted, it's too late for it to be able to be counted. But it might tell you, inform you that you have a signature issue or something like that. So I would like to get this number closer to 100%. So maybe next election in the midterms, we'll repeat this poll and see how many people are tracking their ballot to the point of completion. All right, comments from the stream today. SCOTUS not upending gay marriage. Paul said they have no policies, no leadership, a broken track record, and zero credibility. So they rely on lies, deceit, propaganda, and fear-mongering to fool people. I really feel that way. You know, when people might come back and say, well, what about Donald Trump? He's leading off fear and deporting people, but he's doing that in response to a problem that actually exists, the mass illegal immigration. That problem actually exists. Now, you might think it's scary how he's carrying out mass deportations, but he didn't manufacture a problem to get to that point. That's a real problem. You manufacture some doom and gloom scenario that might happen, could happen, probably will happen, and then people freak out and they're scared and they stay with you and they vote for you, and then when it doesn't happen, nobody holds them accountable. Rick, it's sad to see so many people emotionally triggered, manipulated, and used. Breathe, think, live. I like that, Rick. Breathe, think, live. Touch grass. Touch grass. And it's hard. I mean, I get It's easy for me to say because I'm not gay and I don't have a gay marriage, right? So I can say, don't be scared about that. So I get it. I'm not saying don't be informed. I'm not saying don't track these cases, but don't watch MSNBC and immediately get spun up about something that hasn't happened. And at that time, when they were running these stories about, oh, this gay couple might cancel their wedding, there was no indication that they would have to cancel their wedding. Nothing had happened to make them believe that their wedding wouldn't take place as planned. Yet here are multiple news platforms giving them this outsized megaphone to share their sad story about what? It makes no sense.
I bet you they got married.
I bet you today they're married. Still married, yes.
They got a little attention out of the deal.
They got a little attention. Maybe people donated to a marriage. Maybe they had a honeymoon fund that they were using and trying to get, some sad story out there. On the Seattle mayoral race, Elemental Dino says, it feels like our voting system is half-assed. Matthew Cook, to me, this is something Steve Hobbs should look into. Taking this long is very poor optics and causes distrust. I agree, it fuels distrust. Look at me, fan of the vote mail-in system, and look at me feeling all suspicious. It's just stupid. We're a week out. If New York City can do it, we should be able to do it too. And the politics are the same. New York City is a way more. They just elected a socialist. And they do in-person voting. They get it done the day of. But here, they're like, in-person voting is evil and horrible. It's like, there's a ton of states that still do that.
And at least share the explanation. Give us an explanation. Why does it take so long?
Yeah, do early voting. Let people, and look, I'm not changing my position on this just yet. But you can do early voting if you're concerned, people, might not be able to get to the ballot box or whatever it is. It's like, okay, these states do early voting as well to give people ample opportunity. On the flock camera fallout, Powers Ninja, I'd prefer to not live in a surveillance state, please and thanks. And I get it. Look, let me be clear. I think conservatives and small government people are generally against surveillance. And I am too. But I am not for taking a system that has proven useful in fighting crime and abandoning it after you've spent all this money on it because of a totally made up, as we said, issue of fear-mongering. I agree. Like, I think that traffic red light cameras should be illegal. No, I don't think you could just take a picture of my car and send me a ticket in the mail. Hell no.
That's ridiculous.
So I'm not saying there aren't valid concerns about the flock system. But to say that the real problem with it is ICE might access it is genuinely stupid.
What I've heard is that some agencies are upset that you can't single out ICE as someone that can't access it. So if you say feds can access it, then ICE is included. And if you say they can't, then everybody cannot, which includes like the FBI if they're looking
DEA,
for
all this stuff.
a stolen child or something like that. But
well, then that's the decision you have to make. Are you putting the fear of ICE over like a kid who might be kidnapped and you're looking for?
Yep.
That's what you're doing. Wild. Moon Goddess, they don't care at all. They don't care. All they care about is stopping ICE. That's the priority. It's like ICE. These people think ICE didn't exist before Trump.
It's wild.
You know that ICE was arresting people before Donald Trump, right? You're aware of that. Wild. And the only reason it's so public now is all your little minions are out there recording them and trying to interfere with them.
And because Biden let so many people in,
it's so
they
crazy.
have to work harder now.
It's so crazy.
Crazy.
Deadly year for kids. Milkman says, don't confuse good men with a good man. Oh, yeah. Allison Griffin, the state hates kids. No, I don't think the state hates kids. I think the state loves drug dealers and drug users and criminals. I think they literally have a hard-on for drug users.
Wow, that's graphic.
I'm sorry. It's crazy.
But yeah, I was hoping that maybe the new head of DCYF would change something, but maybe not.
Of course not. Mama Pillow, the people who want to mutilate children make the laws. They hate children. Okay, maybe that's a good point. On coping with cancel culture, Little Miss J, $20 super chat. In regards to the principal, I fully understand his position. There is nothing to do but get up and start over. I have started recovering and it is possible to get the hope back, though my retirement is destroyed. I don't know what your situation was, but we heard this a lot with people over the vaccine mandate who lost their careers and their livelihoods and had to rebuild from nothing. Many of them had been dedicated public servants. Their pension was cut short. It's really despicable and disgusting. And I think it is important that we follow up. I think it is important that we hear, and we've done some stories on people who lost their jobs over the vaccine mandate, because people need to know the impact that these decisions have on real lives for a long period of time.
And the inability for people to say, oops, made a mistake.
Yeah.
They just double down on these bad decisions.
Yeah. Mary Christie, I believe it when he said, we live in a time of revenge. People will destroy you to get revenge. He did not destroy this teacher. He wanted to help her. Yeah, it was a teacher who accused him of black teacher accused him of putting a black kid in a cage because she'd had performance issues that as a principal he was trying to work on with her. And he really believes it's because of that she sought out this revenge and put this story out there. Furries take over ICE facility in Portland. Amy Dawson, what does dressing up in costumes and face masks have to do with ICE? Good God, this clown show is nauseating and old. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that story had nothing to do with ICE. Oh, I was a girl and I didn't want to act like a girl and then I became a boy.
I don't know.
What does that have to do with why you're protesting at ICE? Nothing.
Well, the Dems losing it over the shutdown deal. Country guy, Fetterman is the only one with the huevos, to be honest. Yeah, Son Miller, so tired of seeing Patty Murray whining on my feed. She has gotten quite whiny, hasn't she?
She is out of control.
She really is. I remember the tweet she sent out, or her team, saying, oh, I'd love to talk to my Republican colleagues, but they're on vacation. And Congressman Dan Newhouse saw that, and he goes over to her office, and they knock on the door like, hey, I'm here. I'm not on vacation. Mm-hmm. Just virtue signaling. Mm-hmm. On the Canadian bird slaughter, Matt says, so they left the birds just laying there for the wildlife? No, they picked them up and then threw them away like garbage.
Well, no, they did leave them for a while.
For a bit, but then...
And then they shoveled them over to the side. Mm-hmm. No, it's unbelievable.
So disturbing. Disturbing.
Ugh.
Sergeant Pickles, happy birthday, Marines, for 250 years defending our nation. And as the hymn goes, if the Army and the Navy ever look on heaven's scenes, they will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. That's a good one. Yes, happy 250. I saw that from a lot of friends who used to be Marines posting about this today. So
gave me chills there. I don't know.
I should have delivered it more eloquently. I apologize.
No, you did well.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. We'll get to our closing sanity check. Oh, poor Mamdani. He probably realized all along that a lot of the free stuff he promised isn't going to happen. First, our friend Zach Abraham with Bulwark Capital is having his final live webinar of the year. It's called his Preview live webinar happening November 20th, 3:30 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be, as I said, the final live webinar of the year, totally free to attend. If you're worried about things like all this talk of an AI bubble, you're not sure how much risk exposure your retirement portfolio has, this is a great webinar for you to attend. They're going to talk about the impact AI is having on the market, do a preview for 2026, plus how critical Bulwark's deployment of value investing is to retirement portfolios, and a full reveal of how Bulwark is always looking for opportunities to lower risk, lower cost, give your retirement as much upside as possible. So register now for the free November 20th webinar. Schedule your free Know Your Risk portfolio review while you're there, and the very same place, you can subscribe to Zach's daily market recap. You can do all of that. KnowYourRiskPodcast.com, KnowYourRiskPodcast.com. And with that, let's get to our closing sanity check. All right. So, of course, the mayor-to-be of New York City, Mamdani, the socialist, got these votes by promising a lot of free things. Oh, my God. Free gender surgeries, free food. What else did he promise?
Buses, trains.
Free buses, free trains. Oh my God, doesn't that sound great? You just get to go about your life. Everything's free. It's just handed to you. Except Governor Kathy Hochul, who supported him even knowing that she was going to say no to a lot of this stuff, is saying that she hasn't changed her mind, even though she endorsed and supported his campaign. A lot of his promises to hand out free shit just aren't going to fly.
No, I've had conversations on this trip, but many conversations, I'd say over the summer and the fall, that were important, that led to an understanding of what's in the realm of possibility, shared ambitions, but what is doable is the question.
Yeah, what is doable? And she said, quote, I cannot set forth a plan that takes money out of a system that relies on the fares of the buses and the subways. So she's saying, no, we need the fares to fund the buses and the subways. So no, I'm not going to support a plan that says everybody can just get on the buses and the subways for free. So I think Mamdani voters are going to realize very quickly that all the free crap he promised is not going to happen. That has been our closing sanity check. That has been today's episode of Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for supporting us over the past 4 years. I like to say that we're going to celebrate the whole month of November as our 4-year anniversary. If you've found any value whatsoever in what we've done over the last 4 years and you haven't become a paid subscriber yet, this is the year. 2026 is the year. And start early, Consider it a Christmas gift to yourself of sanity. Go to undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. Click on the banner that says support the show for $5, and you're in it. All right, that's all we got for you today. We'll see you back here on the live show tomorrow at noon.